evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 13th Education Committee and Supplementary Regular Board Meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Good evening, everyone. We have two presentations this evening as part of our education meeting. The first one is on the LMSD 1 book. Now, folks may know that this is a project that's been going on for a few years in Lower Merion, where the high school students read one book and they come together in the fall and have discussions about it after having read it over the summer. The assignment to determine who the book, what the book is going to be, has been by department. History department, English department. This year it fell on the world language department, and so Dr. Pratt, Shannon Davis, and Ali Malay are here to talk about a unique expansion of the one book, and so I'll turn it over to them.
So, good evening to members of the board. So, we're very much looking forward to presenting information about one book to you tonight. So, one book, as Mr. Copeland had just explained, is an effort to create and support reading communities within and across the district and has been in existence for upwards of 6 years. While historically, one book has been a secondary initiative focusing largely on transforming the reading culture in the high school, this year, for the first time ever, one book, one LMSD will have a K-12 focus. As Mr. Copeland has explained, the selection of one book has rotated and continues to rotate among various departments each year. If you remember, the English department hosted Run and the Rent Collector. The Social Studies department hosted The Boys in the Boat. The art department hosted Steal Like an Artist, and the hosting department makes the work as large or as small as they desire. When the World Language Department was offered the opportunity to host one book, they opted to engage with the work in ways that are large, robust, and inspiring. And they did so with a threefold goal. Their first goal was to honor the spirit of one book, which is about creating reading culture and reading community. The second goal is to extend one book to grades K-12, and this meant selecting a text that had resonance for students from ages 7 to 17 and for adults across disciplines and grade levels, an incredibly challenging task. And their third goal is to thoughtfully select a text that included topical interest for students and teachers and connected, enriched, and supported our strategic plan. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Ali Malay, the Lower Merion High School World Language Department Chair, and Ms. Shannon Davis, who is the Harriton High School World Language Department Chair. They and their departments have led and shepherded this work to where it is today. So.
Thank you, Dr. Pratt, and thank you to the school board for having us this evening. I guess a little bit of background. We wanted to include kind of why we decided to include kindergarten or first grade to 12th grade in our decision. And really we did it because program articulation from first to 12th grade has been a goal of ours. And so when given the opportunity to choose a book, we wanted to pick a book with our kindergarten to 8th grade colleagues in our department. So we made the choice to pick the book with and continue our articulation work with literacy at the center.
The process itself was wonderful for our professional learning community. Teachers shared book selections, we read books over the summer, had deep conversations about text choice, level of text, vocabulary, themes, culture. We were all exposed to new literature, and as second language teachers, the process itself was enriching.
This year, students, staff, and families will have the opportunity to look at a question that we feel is important to all cultures, which is, what is a life well lived, or how do we find happiness? And the Little Book of Luca takes readers on a self-professed treasure hunt for happiness. And really, it's a look at well-being and a good, meaningful life rather than temporary, fleeting joy, which is not a bad thing as well.
The book provides some of the research about happiness as well as the history and psychology of happiness. It centers around 6 specific areas of what research tells us about how they increase our well-being. The 6 pillars of Luca are togetherness, money, health, freedom, trust, and kindness. The book focuses on service, community connections, the value of experiences over things, the positive effects of choice, physical movement, mental wellness, and gratitude.
And by working with the author and publisher, we were able to create a special edition of the Little Book of Luca for Lower Merion School District. And the edition was done with the author's approval to maintain the original message and tone, but it had a more appropriate choice of language that allowed us to expand the book for use beyond the 9th to 12th grade grade levels. In terms of logistics, students in grades 9 to 12 will continue to read this as a summer reading book, and then students and teachers in all grades and all subjects will be invited to read the book and utilize excerpts, chapters, vignettes, charts, and graphs, really whatever they find meaningful and fitting for their curriculum and students. I think this book really spoke to teachers on 2 levels. First was that it does really speak to a question that's central to all parents, to all teachers, which is how do I find happiness? How do I find a good, meaningful life? And that's something we all want for our children as a teacher, as a parent. But it also really spoke to us because a lot of the things that we're working on the building level with the strategic plan, challenge success, habits of mind, jumped out at us as we read this book. And I think that it spoke to teachers.
Absolutely. The Little Book of Luca connects to several areas of the LMSD strategic plan and the district's transformative goals, the personal, the cultural, and global.
So the book encourages readers to ask themselves, what can I learn from other cultures about happiness? What makes me interested? What brings me joy? How can I connect to or serve others? Teachers and students will have the chance to engage in this book and reading of the book through a variety of resources that have been created, but also possibly to look at traditional curriculum through a new lens. So English language arts through the lens of happiness, or social studies or history through the lens of well-being or happiness and history. And again, at its heart, we felt that the book spoke to many parts of the strategic plan and was another opportunity for teachers to make it tangible for their students.
Both Challenge Success and the Little Book of Luca focus on mental and physical well-being. Both aim to help bring awareness to practices that increase happiness, success, and overall well-being. Both the book and Challenge Success focus on relationships, exercise, time management, sleep, goals, setting priorities, habits and traditions, work-life balance. These are as relevant to our staff and parents as they are to our students. We also have advisory, rally, forum ideas that were created that make direct connections between Challenge Success, the text itself, and the ideas in the Little Book of Luca.
We also saw connections between the Little Book of Luca and Habits of Mind. And the goal of Habits of Mind is to create more thoughtful, cooperative, compassionate people who will skillfully work to resolve problems. And both the Habits of Mind and the Little Book of Luca help to bring an awareness to practices that increase happiness and well-being. And we made some direct connections between the text itself and practices in the Little Book of Luca.
We are excited about the many ways that the Little Book of Luca will be shared in each of the 10 buildings over the next 12 months. As a department, we've been planning meaningful and engaging ways for students, staff, and community members to interact with the themes of the book. We have started the student staff kickoff video, which we hope to share later this month with teachers in the K-8 in service. We engaged in conversation with staff members and students of what makes them happy and what are they grateful for, and have some wonderful answers compiled in a video. We also are planning a happiness mural in each of the 10 buildings on Harriton High School's Day of Service on May 30th. We will have bulletin boards and visuals in each of the 10 buildings sharing global practices of happiness and physical and mental well-being. We hope to have guest speakers speak to staff and community members, and we will also seek to engage with ISC in reading circles.
Some other fun, we really have a lot of activities planned with the book, some fun opportunities. And the Little Book of Luca suggests that 2 key ways that we can improve on our happiness or well-being are to engage in acts of kindness or giving, service, and also to focus on physical and mental health. And as such, we're in the process of making available to staff, students, and families a variety of community service opportunities with local organizations. And we're hoping that by sharing a wide variety of options for service and by making it easier to find information and participate, that we will enable people to explore service and hopefully begin a longer-term relationship with some really wonderful organizations, and also to practically get hands-on experience with some of what the book suggests. In a similar vein, we are in the process of establishing community wellness opportunities for staff, students, and families that include meetups at various businesses and exercise locations, or even just out in public spaces. We've also created a really wide variety of materials, which we will have housed on a website that we've created and that will be accessible to all teachers and community members. And these include a subject area guide, and that allows teachers to connect across different disciplines to the book. So a music teacher might be able to find a video, an article, a lesson plan. An English teacher might be able to find a unit plan. The health teacher might be able to use large parts of the book. That's really for secondary. And then we have a teacher's guide that we created with the help of the learning support department chairs at both high schools that have graphic organizers, activities, chapter summaries, vocabulary that we also think would be useful for our ELD classes. We have to invite and encourage our elementary colleagues to participate and engage their students. We have created an elementary resource guide that has classroom activities and ideas for morning meeting or connecting to the responsive classroom practices, and sort of some key prompting questions that originate from the book, as well as alternative homework that a teacher might choose to use around wellness practices, which again, for us, came out of some of the work we've been doing with the strategic plan about homework practices in the district. And then finally, we have some great activities that have been organized to connect to an existing system that we have in Advisory Forum or Rally to allow teachers to use the materials or the book in that manner.
And 3 more ways that we're hoping to bring the Little Book of Luca into each of our 10 buildings next year. We've created educator lending libraries, which will be housed in each of the buildings and provide resources and academic books related to physical and mental well-being for staff members to check out and return. We've created a list, a large document of facts, trivia, and quotes that can be shared in each of the building during morning announcements. It may look different in the elementary school than in the high school, but just tips and facts of global practices of happiness. And lastly, a resource card for each of the elementary schools. While they won't be receiving the Little Book of Luca to read in class directly, there are books that tie to the themes that are expressed in Luca at a level appropriate text, so they can still engage in conversations about physical and mental well-being.
So thank you very much for having us, and we are happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much for the presentation and for all of the work around this, and I'm actually looking forward now to reading it myself. Are there any questions or comments from any of the board members? Sure, go ahead, Dr.
Thank you again for the presentation. Glad to hear it again. We're excited, and we had a robust conversation in the curriculum committee about the one book. You talked about the website, and there were a lot of integrated components of it. Could you speak to that just a little bit more? Because it's really exciting that hopefully we'll go beyond the 1 year with this book, particularly given its themes.
Sure. Well, I think we're hoping that through some of the service, and some of the activities, that teachers will see ways to make this a connection that they regularly use with their regular curriculum, with what they're already doing. And I think there are ways we've adapted our Spanish 5 curriculum to sort of look at some of these questions. And we might be using some of the same materials, the House on Mango Street in Spanish, but looking at it from a different angle. So we're hoping that by having this as the focus for one book, it might encourage other teachers to do the same.
Great, thank you.
Thanks a lot. You talked about it being a K-12 initiative, and I just pulled up, off the Montgomery County Library, a copy of the first couple chapters, and I'm just, how do you see the K-5 folks accessing the book? I mean, I'm just looking, one paragraph talks about the Soviet era and Mordor.
So,
I mean, there's a lot
yes.
of, you gotta know a lot of cultural references to understand that.
That's in the subject area guide for high school. Actually, we actually pulled that out. That's funny that you mentioned that. I think different parts of the book it lends itself to pulling vignettes, to pulling a chapter, to pulling even charts and graphs. There are lots of different visuals that a teacher could use and look at with an elementary class and say, well, what does this chart tell us, or what does this visual or infographic tell us, and then how can we use this in our own classroom? So that's why we're not providing the actual hard copy book to each and every student in kindergarten to 5th grade, but teachers can choose how they would like to use it and how they feel it's most appropriate for the students sitting in front of them at that time.
Okay, so you're not even seeing it as a read-aloud book to the kids?
I
I'm
think
just
that-
looking at it because I
think parts, and I think it depends where you are. If you get into the book, there are lots of graphics and there are things you could read aloud. There are actually things that we put in the elementary guide that might be a good way to start, but it might be a 2-page. The book is broken down into very small pieces. So the beginning part, I would say, has the most meat because it has the research on happiness and a little bit of the historic background. And then it gets into the specific practices that he suggests. So I think it would be a matter of adapting it or using very specific parts. And that's the other reason we're providing the cart of literature to the students, because there are parts, we actually pulled the literature, it was really fun, from the Habits of Mind website. And we have a lot of information there from Ben and Calic about different books that might connect to the practices in the book, but are completely age appropriate.
Great, thank you.
What you don't have, because there's a lot of paper, is they've developed resource guides and assignments that are age appropriate that either link back to the book or link into Habits of Mind. And so they have a series of things like that. I would just like to say that, as the strategic plan, I'll say, matures, I think it's nice to see the educators who are putting together, developing, designing ways to strengthen the strategic plan in real ways, not make-believe ways, but ways that are solid according to the aspirations of the plan document.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I heard it before. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be excellent. I looked through what you created. It's very comprehensive, very extensive, and pulling together the books on the cart. And I just think it's really fantastic the way while you connected it to the strategic plan, but you're also looking at it in terms of responding to the Challenge Success Survey, and where well-being really plays a huge part in the students and in their responses. So I think it's fantastic, and I hope it's something that, continues and becomes more of like an initiative kind of ingrained, where this focus on well-being and a whole, thematic way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to remind everyone, I know we were at the curriculum committee meeting and we were told how to get the book. Can you remind everyone, because this is being videotaped, how to get the book?
Absolutely. So the book will be, thank you very much. The book will be available in each school to people to purchase, and we have negotiated an excellent, about half of the rate of the online price. So we hope that people will come buy the book at the half price rate that we have for the special edition. But each school will publicize exactly who is selling the book, and it will be available all summer as well.
So I'm just clarifying that. So the kids who are in high school are also reading the Lower Merion version?
Yes, yeah, they are. I mean, their parents could obviously opt to buy the other book if they'd like,
But
or
it's-
they could buy this book, which is less expensive, and it really doesn't change the heart of the book.
So you want people to buy the book before the end of this year, the school year?
We
Is that
will
the
make
idea?
it available before,
Okay.
it should be coming in this week, actually.
Oh,
We're very
great.
excited,
Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Well, thank you again. Was there anyone else? Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's really exciting.
So one of the things that we've been doing over the last couple of years is, as part of the strategic plan, also revamping our report cards. And so Scott Eveslag is going to update the full board and the public on our progress with the kindergarten through second grade.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to update you once again on the progress of the elementary report cards. We have been working on revamping the elementary report cards for 3 years. This is year 3 of a 4-year process, and with our final step being next year, adopting the kindergarten through grade 2 report card. So we are very, very close to that point, and wanted to provide an update to the community on the status of the report cards. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the work that Ms. Robin Kleiber, Belmont Hills principal, has done with our report card from its inception, even from her work prior to leaving the district and then returning. She kind of picked up right where she left off. Ms. Jennifer Keogh and Dr. Dan Martino have been instrumental in leading this initiative as well. So the strategic plan focus explorations have been this year's primary areas of focus for our strategic plan, where we have really honed our attention on the strategic plan in these 9 areas. And so under the Redefining Success pathway, we are talking about elementary report cards again, and you can see the other explorations and their connections to the elementary report card. The habits of mind will be very much pronounced throughout the report cards. Certainly homework and how homework incorporates into grading and reporting is part of the report card. And certainly under the umbrella of the K-12 grading philosophy and our grading practices, which are being honed and focused right along with our report card work. So these connections are part of the great energy around the strategic plan, quite honestly, is how we have our different work in the strategic plan connected, aligned, and certainly interrelated. When we crafted and formalized the strategic plan in 2014, Redefining Success was one of our 5 pathways, and the language that we included in 2014 was that we will transform how we define, measure, and report student achievement with a focus on each student's individualized growth and mastery in areas that extend beyond traditional academic indicators. So when we were revamping the report cards and looking at how we can improve this aspect of our communication with students and with families, our objective that drove our report card exploration was really looking at us transforming the way we define, measure, and report holistic student progress. You can see that certainly very much aligned to our original language in the strategic plan. So when we started to really attack this, we kind of started with what do we want our purpose of grading to be? And it's really interesting when you look at the research on grading. Different communities, different school systems have chosen to adopt different purposes for grades, and those purposes would drive, as you might imagine, drive both reporting but grading practices. And we kind of focused in on what our philosophy would be, and you'll see this reflected in our K-12 grading philosophy when we formalize this even more significantly. But when we talk about what the purpose of grading is, we see grading as a form of communication, and communication about student achievement and progress. The grades should be not about what students earn, but what they learn. And oftentimes, grades are used as carrots, or they're used as incentives, or they're used to motivate students. And those may be byproducts of grading, but we are not using them for the primary purpose, where the primary purpose is communication about student achievement and growth. We also have, as our other work in the strategic plan connected to this pathway has shown we are not using grades as a mechanism to sort, rank, or separate students. As our work around class rank, around valedictorian, our other work around this pathway is in grading very much aligned with that. And also kind of phasing out this aspect of report cards being an opportunity or a venue to report behavior or compliance. Certainly there are appropriate times to communicate with families about behavior growth, behavior challenges, but we are focusing from a report card standpoint on learning and achievement and growth. So I love the line, grades are communication and not compensation. You don't want students to say, what do I earn? Or how can I earn this more than you earn it by learning? Learning is the way that you attain a grade. So K-12, we still have work to do with that area, but the report card hopefully is a structure in place that will guide that. So when we initiated our report card work, we were solving some other needs of our report card that we had been using. And we saw that the report card needed to align to our district purpose, as I just shared. It also needed to align more closely with the PA core standards and our Lower Merion School District curriculum. It needed to broaden our reporting on values reflected in the strategic plan, including the habits of mind, the transformative goals, innovation. We want to hear about how students are establishing and fostering a growth mindset. And we certainly want it, because it's a communication tool, to be more easily readable and meaningful for families and educators. And the audience of the report card is not just the parent. The parent is a primary audience of the report card, but also the student. And the more the student is an owner of the report card and an owner of contributing to self-assessment, we know that that's the progress very much aligned with the strategic plan. And certainly when we want the report card to tell a story about the student. So when a parent were to read the report card, they should see, this is my student. I know that this teacher understands my child as a learner, and also provides some insight on their achievement levels. So just a little bit of a timeline of what we've been doing the last few years. Again, this is year 3 of 4. We started in 2016-17 with a committee of teachers, curriculum supervisors, building administrators, met to plan a pilot for the 4th grade of the report card. And then in 2017 and 18, we piloted the report card at the 4th grade, just in grade 4. And we did that while we were doing the previous report card. So the first 2 trimesters of last school year, we had the 4th grade report card, old and new, being done, and we surveyed parents after that second trimester, and the feedback that we received was that the new report card was meeting a need that the previous one had not met. So we felt like we were progressing in the way that we had hoped, and we adopted the grade 4 report card, and then built at the same time the grade 3 and 5 report card in that same model. Now there were some suggestions and feedback that we got from teachers and parents along the way that helped us shape that grade 3 and 5 report card. So where it was as a pilot certainly is not where it is now. And so, but the framework and the essence of the report card certainly has remained true to that. So this year in 2018-19, we have grades 3, 4, and 5 with the new report card. And the grade K2 report card has been developed throughout the year. And we're ready, here we are in May, ready to adopt and pitch the K2 report card for full adoption for next year, which would complete the K5 report card revision. So our work in the strategic plan is rooted in the transformative goals, and our work with the report card is rooted in the transformative goals. You heard that from our previous presentation with how the transformative goals have permeated throughout the culture. But the transformative goals are the essence of our grading, and yes, they're actually on the report card, and we want students to see themselves in these goals as well. But if you recall, the transformative goals are very much aligned with the habits of mind. So Ben Akalik, the founder of Habits of Mind, was helped us in the development of the strategic plan, helped us in the development of the transformative goals, and the Habits of Mind are also one of our strategic plan focus explorations for this year, with the hope of being K5, bringing that to scale in K5. And the Habits of Mind language is a little more student-friendly These are images that you'll see in every elementary school in the classrooms, and you will see, and if you go into our elementary classrooms, you will hear students using language like you see on the bottom of these images. So while we don't report behavior per se on a report card, there's not going to be a behavior checklist on a report card. You can see through narratives when students are both self-assessing how they are persisting, how they are managing impulsivity, and how teachers are reporting that. Another one is thinking interdependently as an example. So we have in the past had indicators on the report card about sharing, whether how is a student progressing in their ability to share. That certainly is a valuable skill that we would want students to have, is to be good sharers. That would manifest itself in the report card as being working well with others, thinking interdependently. How am I working well with others? Not only sharing on the playground, but sharing as learners, right? To share ideas and work collaboratively with one another. So there have been some questions about looking at what the narrative on the report card would be. And one of the priorities with the new report card is that it is more narrative rich than our previous report cards. And so grade 4 is now in year 2 of the report card, and grade 4 teachers are finding this process to be much more natural as they're gathering evidence of learning and gathering a student's story along the way, and asking students to own that story in the development. So here's a sample report card from a grade 4, a sample narrative portion of the report card. The report card is broader than just the narrative, but this was a narrative of a student. And you can see as you're reading through that, language not only specifically to the students, to the activities in the class and the students learning, but you can certainly see habits of mind language that permeates throughout the narrative. Similarly, this year with our K2, the narrative will look a little different. Now, this is a sample report card narrative from kindergarten. And mind you, this is a teacher who is, we haven't adopted the full report card yet. So this is the current report card. But the narrative, they have been working on what the narratives will look like, and teachers are making intentional efforts to embed habits of mind language in the narrative even this year, and we expect that to grow as the years go on. So I applaud the efforts of the teachers to try to rethink how they are telling the story of the student on the report card. But this was a sample of one that we pulled from kindergarten this year. And I'm not, to be honest, saying this is an exemplar per se, but you can see how the narrative is evolving to tell more of a story.
I think, Scott, if I can interrupt, that one of the things, I'll continue with the theme of as it matures, if you'll just look back go back a couple of slides, that one more. If you'll see, not only are there summative comments made about a student, but there are also specific examples. So as part of the story, the teacher is giving a specific example of what the student was doing, setting up the echo column. She was able to think flexibly while working with her science group. So it gives some examples, something for the parent to. Thanks.
So as we've adopted the grades 3, 4, and 5 report card, we've also added some resources to the website for families to help understand the report card. So if you go to our school district website, lmsd.org, and follow that path, or this link is actually active on the presentation itself. So if someone were to view and click on this, it would take them directly to the elementary report card section of the website. But we have on the left, we have a guide for families which has frequently asked questions about the report card, about the reporting categories, and about some of helping families interpret the report card. We also have samples of grades 3, 4, and 5 report cards up, so you can actually see the standards specifically of what a grade 3, 4, and 5 report card would look like. The K2 will be up once we finalize it, which we're getting close. But there's also links to transformative goals, habits of mind, and some additional information about some habits of mind videos. Another aspect of this year's report card being done through Power School electronically is that families are no longer handed, grades 3-5, are no longer handed a hard copy that's expected to be brought home via the backpack on a Thursday or a weekly end of the trimester, but families can access that online and download the report card. So principals are sending out communication at the end of the trimester to families about steps on how they can download. However, the office is prepared to print copies for any families that are interested. And if you prefer to have, if you don't have internet access, or for whatever reason you just want a nice, beautiful colored report card to hang in the refrigerator, we're happy to print that for you as well. It also helps for parents to go back if they want to go back and see the report card from earlier. So just a couple changes. The K2 report card is going to look slightly different than the 3-5 report card. The basic framework of the report card is similar. But we do have a group of K2 teachers, specialists, and curriculum supervisors that are finalizing and detailing the changes to the report card. And the K1 grades 1 and 2 report card just has fewer standards than the 3 and 5 report card, so there's not quite as many reporting categories. If you look at the samples online, you can see that there's a lot of standards and skills that are reported. This has more. There's fewer on the K2. It is more narrative rich and continues to reflect the same habits of mind, transformative goals that we see in the other grades. And there are going to be multiple narrative areas, and we've done this with conversation with the teachers because they're just different. Students are obviously in a different developmental stage in K1, 2, and they're describing them as a learner in ELA might be different than they're themselves as a learner in math. And quite honestly, kids just have more ebbs and flows in their learning at that age, and that's to be expected. But so it's a better communicator of where students are. There'll be narrative sections for both ELA and math, and possibly a third. We're just finalizing those details. And the ready to learn social habits, which have been included. Those were kind of the sharing, self-control. They had been somewhat checklist driven, and so that will not be necessarily in a checklist, but you will see that being incorporated into the narrative of the report card. And I always think that you never want parents to be surprised by a report card at any level. Sometimes, unfortunately, we all have been. As parents, I can remember the surprise of seeing the report card. Not always a pleasant surprise, but when you see the report card. But report cards are one means of communication. We want you should support the conferences that occur, the ongoing communication, and the report card coupled with that should help tell a really rich story for students. So as we transition to our next steps, we have a pivotal professional development day for our K-8 teachers on May 21st. But particularly K-5 teachers are going to be working on grading practices, collecting evidence of learning, unpacking standards, work that's connected to the report card work. But our K-2 teachers particularly are going to be focused on the final stages of development of the report card. We're working with technology on just getting the final logistics. Technology has been very supportive of this as we have allowed this to be integrated into Power School and to communicate with our families. And we certainly will update the website with the updated materials on the K-12 samples and make sure that we communicate to families at the beginning of next year about what changes they can expect and how we can help them navigate those changes. So we're pleased with the progress and appreciate the efforts of our teachers to get us where we are.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's funny, I remember when we were starting the strategic planning process with a group of, lots of faculty, teachers, and administrators and parents and all the people from the community, and lots of discussions. And it surprised me because we kept saying, well, what, if you could change one thing, like what would you change, right? Like we were having those kinds of conversations, like what would your dream be? And there were all these elementary school teachers who would say, I want to change the report card. And I was like, really? Like that's your one thing? And it was because as they were talking about it, it was, sort of what it represented in terms of, how they were teaching and how they were communicating with families. And so it's really amazing to see, this whole process coming kind of full circle and actually being implemented. So I appreciate all of your work and everybody else who's done lots of work on this. So are there any questions or comments? Sure, Robin.
Thank you again for the presentation. I wanted to, and I brought this up in curriculum, I know we have teachers that Dr. Gilbert just mentioned who are excited about the changes, but could you also speak to the support for teachers who may be feeling a little reticent with something that is becoming bigger and larger and broader in terms of their responsibility? Now, certainly we know that's occurring in classrooms all the time, but to have it materialize in a report card fashion, could you talk about the support we're providing for teachers who may not necessarily be on board just yet?
Sure, it's a great question, and we've been upfront with the teachers through this process about it's more challenging from a teacher standpoint to tell a more robust story, to report more accurately about individual skills requires a different level of it's a different way of approaching how we gather evidence of learning. So we had professional development earlier this year. We brought a consultant in from Marzano to talk about the collection of evidence and how to differentiate the gathering of evidence. And so we don't want there's a lot of ways that standards-based reporting is done, and sometimes it's done really poorly by saying only one assessment or one benchmark will contribute to a grade. And we want a lot of different evidence of learning. So we could be playing a classroom game, for example, and only 2 or 3 students I may be assessing during that game on a particular skill. Or there just may be an informal classroom question that we asked, and that could contribute to that. So these are strategies that require some time and effort from teachers to help develop, and not that they don't have the strategies, they did, but when you're gathering it and you're documenting it in a different way, it's a different way of day-to-day operation. So we've had some ongoing professional development on that. We have our 4th grade teachers supporting our grade 3 and 5 teachers, and we also have our May 21st upcoming PD to work on that as well. But quite honestly, some of it has just been some time dedicated to working through the writing of a narrative. And so we know that this commitment to this doesn't end, even though the next year we'll have the K-5 report card. The practices and the grading practices and day-to-day is going to require continued ongoing work.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is fantastic. So I have 2 questions. One, because it will take more time for the teachers to create these narratives, where hopefully it's not cutting and pasting between one student and the next. Are teachers going to be given any additional writing time so that they can focus on writing a nice, telling the story of each individual learner? So will they have any writing time? And actually, I guess I built in my other cut and paste question in there.
So teachers have been given time to work on writing, but I think more importantly is how are they developing the skills to do this over time, and also how are they involving the student more actively in their own gathering of evidence. So when there's connections to digital portfolios, a connection to student-driven conferences where students are beginning to tell that story, and as they're gathering that evidence and assessing their own progress on the habits of mind, that will also ease the burden of so for example, 4th grade teachers are not a week before the report cards sitting down and saying, all right, now I'm going to start my report card. They're along the way, they're building this hopefully alongside with students. So we're not objected to giving time. We just want it to be done efficiently in the moment, assessing from a lot of different ways, and I think that go hand in hand.
Thank you.
Question. Just quickly, is there a way, I just followed the link to get a sample of the report card. Is there a way to link the portfolio to the report card for a parent?
The digital portfolio?
Yeah.
So you're a few steps ahead of us, but yes, we want the digital portfolio to be part of the assessment process. And the digital portfolio is kind of this ongoing throughout the year communication between families and students adding input, adding their own work to their portfolio. So it's part of the assessment progress. But we want that to be more naturally included, but we're not there yet.
Okay, but, because it just seems, if you're going to be giving the report cards electronically rather than physically, it might lend itself to attaching all kinds of samples of student work to the report card in a way that you couldn't if you handed them paper.
So, I don't know that we have a picture of the end of what it's supposed to look like, but clearly if, I'll take the example of what the teacher wrote there, if there was, and she talked about the STEM project, if there was then a way to click on a hyperlink for STEM that took you to the student's portfolio where you could see that project, that would be nice. That would require quite a bit of extra, setup for the teacher today. But maybe at some time in the future, that could be more seamlessly designed and as things go on. I just want to say that that's one of the things that's been nice is that, as I mentioned earlier, the professional staff has leaned into a lot of the things that are part of the strategic plan and done some design of their own. And I think, I said this one other time before, and because Scott mentioned Benekalik and other people, I really think the staff has responded because you as a board have allowed us to bring nationally known people into the district and to make sure that we've provided them with strong support from different consultants in real stuff, in job-embedded kinds of things that have helped them really work through the process.
Just a quick, simple idea is when the kids save their work, maybe there's a way they could save it to their report card portfolio all at the same time, so it wouldn't be teacher going back and putting it there, but student just automatically saving it in. Anyway, just an idea.
Thank you again. At this time, if there's anyone who would like to give public comment, audience recognition, if you could come sign in with Ms. LaPera. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment or ask a question? No? Okay. Okay, well, I just want to give the upcoming meetings. First of all, Mr. Copeland will be giving the State of the District address to the ISC tomorrow at 9:30 in this building in room 264. So I know that's always a highlight.
Oh, yeah.
If everyone wants to join us, come on. We also have committee meetings, May 15th at 8:30 a.m. in this room, Financing Committee, and we're going over the curriculum budget review, May 16th, Facilities and Purchasing Committee, and May 20th in the evening at 8 p.m., the regular business board meeting. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.